Yes, guys, and welcome back to We Are Tottenham TV. Sorry about the delay. Bit of a mix-up in the times, but don't worry. Your hour-long show is here, and to help us get through the next hour, because, of course, Tottenham are back. We're travelling away to Goodison Park to take on Everton. We are joined by the wonderful Amir, also Sean from Spurs Talk Show. Me and Shawnee been at it together all day. I love this. Also, the one and only Ash Matic as well. We'll start with you, Amir. How are you feeling, brother? How are you keeping?
Well, with all the turmoil and all the mess and all the mayhem and everything, I'm just excited to see the lads play tonight, to be honest. Hopefully get a good performance out of them, Dave. Hopefully.
Hopefully, my man. And also, big up LS Vlogs as well for alerting me to the situation. Big up, my man. Shawnee, how are you, brother?
I'm good, mate. It was just as a private joke asked publicly. Did you finish in time? Did you get it done? Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, just back. Yeah, just back. Now one's complete.
Yeah, he done half to leave, half for later. I know how it works. I'm good, mate. It's good to be back with you guys. Good to be back with everybody. Happy game day, everybody. Come on, let's get it going.
No, we've got a lot to talk about today. A hell of a lot. Ash, how are you keeping, brother?
Schmatic. Why? I'm back. We're back. Yes, people. It's been a minute. 2 weeks. We've had time to, de-stress a little bit. Well, we kind of don't know if I call it that, but yeah, we've had a little break, and it's time to rock and roll, man. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but I'm still here.
Yeah, a bit like myself, feeling a bit under the weather myself today. But look, we moved. Tottenham are back. That means we are back with your pre-match pump up. Everyone smash that like for the pump up. Also, welcome KPV, new channel member. I think he's just renewing because he's always a channel member. He always loves coming on and giving Ben stick on them fans posts. Love it. But look, Amir, we'll start with you. What are you expecting to see from Tottenham today? Because we're a bit of an unknown quantity going into this game, right? It's sort of like clean slate. So what are you expecting to see from Tottenham today?
Well, David, I would expect to see a performance from all of them. All of them to amp their game up by at least 20-30% and really go for the jugular. I think Everton, although they've had some good performances, I think we have, in terms of quality and the players that we've got on the pitch, we've got enough to outdo them. Now, personally, I would love to see an attacking performance. Getting back to the Spurs DNA, will that happen under Stellini? I'm not too sure. It's a bit of an unknown. But I personally would love to see a 3-5-2, stick Sonny and Kane right up at the top, maybe play Kulu there just in behind them in a bit of in the hole in the number 10 role, and just push on those wing backs, get them bombing forward, and just try and create chance after chance, because, the Sheffield and the Milan and all that is just not acceptable to keep going on like that. We've got 10 games left. It's critical that we do well in these last 10 games. And I hope the boys are up for it today. Really do.
Yeah. Look, we're all in the same boat. We're all hoping that the boys are up for it because, of course, with a win tonight, we could go third, Sean. But, same question to you. Unknown quantity. What are you expecting from this Tottenham team today? They start from a blank canvas.
Yeah, like I was saying on the last show with you, mate, I feel like there's another variable to throw in. Right, we've seen Stellini ball and Mason ball when earlier on in the season when Conte had his medical absence, and people were polite, sort of pleasantly surprised by the shackleless versions of Tottenham that came out for the most part. Obviously against Wolves it fell apart quite a bit, but what I would say is today I'm intrigued, more than expectant, more than sort of I don't have any deliberate ambitions for it, more than I'm intrigued to see what Tottenham can look like without the shackles. The shackles are off the team. The shackles are also off the coach. Before then it was always him implementing Conte ball just via Stellini. Now we get to see Stellini ball. He hasn't got to ask any questions. He hasn't got to wait for any instructions. He and Mason can get together and can put forth their own version of Tottenham, which it's intriguing. I'm a fan of change. I think that, change is constant. So let's see what we can deliver. And for me, look, it's going to be a really tough game. What I would argue, what I would ask is, knowing what Sean Dyche is like and knowing how he's going to play, I don't think a point really suits any team. I think both teams want the 3 points. Everton are involved in a real scrappy relegation battle that involves 9 teams. We're involved in a top 4 chase that involves maybe 5 teams. And so everyone wants the 3 points. How Dyche is going to sort of merge the desire points with his natural organized defensive shape. I think he starts with a 4-5-1. For me personally, if it's 0-0 at half time, it's going to be a frustrating affair. If Tottenham can get an early goal, it could create a wonderful, wonderful game of football. If it doesn't, if it's 0-0 and it's stubborn and kind of very organized on the Everton side, I think that it could be an incredibly boring encounter once again. We'll see what happens.
No, look, and it was a very good observation. What I would say is that Stellini maybe might be able to insert himself on the team rather than what Conte wanted, which is what he sort of done when he was in charge. So, Ash, do you think we will see a change from a back five to a back four? Do you think we'll see Tottenham pressing higher up the pitch? Do you think many people saying they wanted to see us play to our strengths? Do you think we'll see all that today?
I think personally, I think he wants to keep it more or less game by game. I think he's doing tactics game by game, because if Everton have a 5-4-1 or a 4-4-2, then it would make sense to maybe outnumber them in defense with your three up front. So if you've got three attackers, you want to outnumber their two centre backs. If they're full backs in Coleman and Godfrey are up and down, then maybe you want your wing backs to push a little bit higher up, because the space is going to be in behind. When we did play them, when we were at the Tottenham Stadium earlier this season, I did notice that we did push quite high up. I remember Richarlison started, and that game we had a lot of possession. And I've been looking at Everton, and they seem to have a lot less of the ball. So they have like 30% of the ball, and I'm happy with that. But they still create big chances. And I remember in the first half, especially against Tottenham, it was Gray that went closest in the first half, and then it was Onana as well that had a second big chance that he really just fluffed his lines. It could have been a completely different game if they had scored that. So I know everybody wants Spurs to be super attacking and go forward and go up high up the pitch, but I think that's playing into Dyche's hand a little bit, and he kind of wants that space in behind to kind of get his box-to-box midfielders to running into your Gray, to running into even the Wobbies. They're going to want that space to run into. So I think that at the same time, as expensive as Stellini and Mason will be going, I feel they'll have, in the back of their minds at least, Dyche's game plan. And so I think that's the reason why we still might see a similar formation, a similar tact to what we saw at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Ash, I heard you mention about the difference between what the wing-backs do and how that can shape up to what Tottenham should do. What about the monster midfield that Everton have got? Onana, Gueye, Iwobi, Duke, is it Duque? What's his name? I forget his name. Decore, sorry. You've got four players there that are just absolute beasts and that can come in, they can all interchange with each other. I wonder a little bit whether, I'm not suggesting I want this, but I just want to ask everyone's opinion, if you don't mind, Dave, taking over the stream as I do. I'd like to ask everyone's opinion whether or not the natural 3-4-3 here that would have, Ollie Skip and Højbjerg might be better suited by throwing in a third man in there, or asking one of the three to come back, and the three at the top to come back in. Someone like a Decky come back in, use his strength to try and compete against the likes of Onana. Because I think that whilst I agree with what you're saying, Ash, about the wings and the opportunity for us to move forward, I also think the game could be won and lost, like it has been. We saw Arsenal going to Everton away this season and getting absolutely dominated in their midfield against Everton's. If Arsenal's midfield get dominated by Everton's, Tottenham's will. So,
can I respond to that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think when we're off the ball, we're in a 5-4-1. I think that reverts back to type. So we'll see the likes of Kulu and Son drop back into the 4 to protect your two double pivots in Højbjerg and Skip.
Yeah.
So it'll be the
I'm not talking so much about when we don't have the ball. When the transition is complete, I think obviously it makes sense to go back into your static formations, 5-4-1 versus 3-4-3, whether you have it. But in the transition is where the game can be won or lost, right? And that's where I wonder whether or not we should have a third man in there.
In the transition, how it works is you have your three centre backs, and what happens is one of them pushes on, okay, and then one of your wing backs sit back to create the free. Yeah, you know what I mean. We're not completely exposed when they counter us. And then also with your double pivots, they also sit back as well. So if you noticed, a lot of our double pivots, Højbjerg doesn't normally join the attack, and neither does Skip. And so we've also got double protection in front of that three, just in case that transition happens or that counter-attack happens, then we've got 5 players there that are able to protect us With Arsenal, they normally have just 2 defenders on the halfway line sitting. They don't have any protection. And so that's the reason why you saw Arsenal getting dominated in midfield like that. So that's the reason why I think Stellini won't change it too much for this particular game. I think in other games, he might switch it up a little bit more, because he did say that, per game, this is what he said in the conference. I don't know how true it's going to be, but he said tactically, we might tweak a few things here and there. So I don't know if he would change a whole formation, but game by game, he might, switch things around. He might get one of the wing backs and make them into an inverted wing back a bit more. So, they become a midfield 3.
Fair enough.
There's little things that you might have to look out for during the game. But in this particular game, because the magnitude of the game, obviously Newcastle just winning, and us being on the lights the first game, the pressure is for the top 4. Levy's still putting the pressure on the boys, and obviously the comments that the players are selfish. I think the players need to use that to respond to that and use that as fuel and to come out. Are we selfish? Ask themselves that question. Are we?
That's the big question, Ash. That is the big question. Are these players up to it today? And I personally think this is a huge test for us. And Sean, what you were mentioning there about their midfield, that's why I said at the beginning, for me, we've got to go 3-5-2. 3-5-2. And you've got to stick Kulu there just in behind, just to have an extra man in midfield, just for a little bit of extra security. And personally, I think Kulu, we've come to expect him scoring goals and assisting, and he hasn't done so much of that recently. And I think personally, they're behind Son and Kane. We can utilize his fantastic shooting ability that he has. So if Kane and Son have got the ball, they can lay it off to Kulu. It's another avenue, another goal scoring avenue that we can go down. Whereas on the wing, he gets a few less chances to shoot.
I think
so that's what I would do.
Cool.
I think what we'll see is I think Stellini would be sort of I don't think he's going to ask the likes of Kane and Son and that to drop deep. But when I look at the injuries, right, forward line is probably the only area we're not really carrying any. So I think you will still see the 3 up front. I don't envisage him putting 2 up there and dropping 1 into midfield. Yeah. I think if he does do that, he might start with a back 4 and put an extra man in the middle. But what I really think he's going to do is
wait. Before you say what you think he will do, just let me pick into that one for a second. If he does go to a back 4, how does that look?
Look, I would rather have
Porro on the right, and then
Porro right, Romero. I'd rather have Langley in there and drop Dyer, and then who's fit for the left?
Perisic. Yeah, you can't
maybe Langley at left back, and Dyer will probably have to play if we were to go to a 4. But what I do envisage happening is I think, similar to what he done to Man City, he might ask Eric Dyer to step up into the midfield to sort of help them out, or sit in as a cam and push Højbjerg and Skip and send them sort of after the ball. I think that's what you might see. I don't really think Stellini will change it up too much. I think he might change it up a little tactically, and I think that's what he'll do, because that was under him and Mason, right, where they asked
that would require Perisic to sit back into a left back role, right? And you can't expect Perisic to do anything regarding defensive work. We know what he's capable of, right, and what he isn't. So I love what you're saying, but I think your first point is probably more realistic, right? He's not going to change it up. He's going to go 3-4-3. He's asked for his 3 centre backs to sit back in, the other 2 to pop up and do their work, and hope that Højbjerg and Skip can compete with Onana, which is a scary prospect.
Surely, then what's the difference between Conte ball? What's the difference between Conte ball then if he does that? 3-4-3.
Well, nothing in it. Nothing in a kind of in a tactical ideology. But I think you've got to factor in the idea that at the moment there's injuries, right? There's a ridiculous amount of injuries. You've got no option on the right. Emerson's out for the rest of the season, or near enough. You've got no Davies. You have no Bentancur. Perisic has got a knock. Hugo Lloris, I know, is potentially coming back, but he shouldn't be, in my opinion. I think if Hugo Lloris is fit for this game, or even if he's not for this game, for the next game, if he just comes straight back in, when Conte said the second that Hugo Lloris is fit, he comes straight back in. Once again, I know he was still in charge when he said it, but that sort of message to me, it breaks all rules of meritocracy, and it sends such a horrendously bad message to players like Foster, who have done a brilliant job. I called him out. I was happy when we signed Foster. I thought he'd be a good deputy. Then when I saw him against Leicester, I was at the game away at Leicester, and I saw him get beaten by 3 pot shots from outside the area, and he took forever to get down. And I was like, this guy's an acorn tree. He can't, like an oak tree. He can't get down. We're going to get hammered. But ever since then, he's been increasingly more confident and better, and he's kept us in games. And I could name on, he's made maybe one mistake in the last like 9 games. If Conte was to still be here and then stick by his vision that the second that Hugo's fully fit, Foster, thanks very much, mate, back to the bench, sends a horrible message. But to me, just to get back to your point, what does it change between Conte ball and Stellini ball? Not much in terms of tactics, but I also think that Stellini's hand is forced a little bit here by injuries. I'm not sure how many more options he has to do too many things different tonight.
Just quickly, 24C. It's amazing what 30 minutes can do. You and Sean were disagreeing there 20 minutes ago, and now you're. This is what I love about football. I absolutely love it. Big up 24C.
Big up, mate. I love the guy. I love the guy. But you know,
I love it.
We agree to disagree all the time in the most pleasant ways possible.
I love it. I absolutely love it. But Amir, back to you. Anything you want to say on to what Shawnee said? Back to your point.
Look, it's a good point, but the injuries and that. But then, what was the point in sacking Conte? I kind of don't get it. Then, if we're just going to continue with that kind of method of playing, what is the point of getting rid of him? Like, surely we should have held on to him for the last 10 games.
He wanted to go, mate. He wanted to go. What you said, he made for a rub for his own back, right?
He did.
We didn't sack him, mate. We didn't sack him. There was it was mutual consent. We don't know the ins and outs of it. But to me, Daniel Levy had a phone call and was like, "What's going on, bro? Do you want to go?" And he's like, "Wouldn't mind getting out of here if I'm honest." All right, then. Well, let's figure out a nice compensation package.
Well, then that's the thing. Then get rid of Stellini as well. And honestly, I recently found out that he was been done for match fixing. I'm all for second chances and whatnot in life. I believe everyone deserves a second chance. But honestly, I think it's a shambles that a man who's been done for match fixing is leading us out against Everton. So honestly, I would have got rid of Stellini as well. Yeah,
I mean, I think what it was is at the time, Paratici still had a massive say on footballing decisions, and Levy was respecting the footballing expert at the time. Okay. And I think he was the one that stepped up and said, if Conte is going to go, we need Stellini to come in. This is too much of a crucial time to completely rip out the whole nucleus of the team. It's too much of a risk. So I think it was Paratici that said, let's get in Stellini. And then obviously, because Stellini said, when I listened to the press conference, he said, there was discussion between, Paratici, the board and Conte, and he got the phone call from obviously Paratici, and he was the one that said, we would like you to carry on, you and the staff. And it was that way around. It wasn't like the other way around. So I don't know if that answers your question. So I think obviously, like we will, like if it's a fresh start, you want fresh ideas and new things going on, right, to mix it up. But obviously,
I don't know what any manager that would come in tonight, how would they do something differently? If they looked at the squad, it would be different if you had Ben Davies fit and Emerson Royale fit, right? Yeah. Because I think the difference between a wing back and a fullback is very clear to me. With Emerson out injured and with Ben Davies out injured, and with Sessegnon as well. Sorry, I think any manager, even if Pochettino was in right now or Nagelsmann, they would have had a week and they'd look at it and go, what else can you do? Like Perisic is not a left back. You cannot play Perisic at left back. Pedro Porro maybe, but even that is an unknown entity. I think you have to kind of look at the situation and go, it doesn't matter who the manager is, when you don't have any other defensive options or players that have at least a defensive element to their game available on the width defensively, then you're struggling. Pedro Porro maybe, but if Emerson's out, you can't play Perisic at a left back. And so I think that any manager coming in right now would have to go to a back three with wing backs, because Perisic is the only real option. Even Longley at left back, it's an untested, unproven ideology. And if you have Pedro Porro on the right as well, you're just going to get ripped apart, in my opinion.
I think as well, a lot of attacks from Everton have come down their right-hand side, which is going to be where Perisic sits. So equally, we're going to be using Perisic today. It's going to be a lot of attacks sprung from not just Iwobi, it'll be Coleman and then the Corey will be helping out down that side. Even Idris Gay, he gets forward a lot. As much as he's the deepest line in midfielder, he actually gets forward as well. So that left-hand side for us may be a problem. We might need to see Højbjerg sweep across that left-hand side to help Perisic out quite a bit. Otherwise, we might have a few problems when they're releasing their counter-attacks. I also think Tchaikovsky, the centre-back, he's the one that kind of delivers the switch of play, those long balls. And I was watching a video on Sean Dyche. There was 2 videos I watched on him. One was Coach's Voices, and the other one was High Performance.
Yeah,
and he always talks about everyone thinks at Burnley, all I do is long balls, but long balls in the Premiership, you have to have long balls with precision. You just don't fire the ball into space. You need to hit the balls into feet, into accuracy with purpose and intent. And we work with this throughout our training sessions. So anytime people just say, oh, we're going to get that long ball treatment from, no, it's actually tactically, like, you know, the fastest, he plays very direct and very fast. And we know that with Spurs, especially watching us lately, that we don't do this whole passing, moving up the ball slowly. We're quite fast, we're quite direct, and so are they. So as soon as they get the opportunity from their back three, they're going to try and hit that ball into space, into their front line. And even McNeil's going to be a problem as well, actually. McNeil's actually good, a winger. He's a good winger, and he's good at getting crosses into the box. So I'm expecting a lot of crosses. I'm expecting a lot of set pieces and corners. And that's when we're going to be at our most vulnerable. We're going to be vulnerable at those points. And I think you guys are right about the whole Lloris situation, because when it comes to corners and set pieces, I feel like Forster is more of a presence and has more of that height factor and physical appearance where he can, you know, maybe grab some of those balls and stop some of those set pieces from happening. So it's just something else to think about.
I agree with you on the set pieces. I was actually just going to make that point that I think, you know, Sean Dyche has definitely been drilling them on corner kicks all week long. They know it's our weakness. They've got Tarkowski, Onana, people like that to sort of just throw themselves at the ball. And we know from set pieces, we've actually got away with it a lot this year where other teams haven't been able to get their headers on target. But we never win the first ball, barely ever. And it's going to be a massive problem. And that's why I would stick with Fraser Forster today. Look, you know, I didn't want Conte to be sacked. You know, I didn't think he was, you know, as big as a problem as people were making him out to be. But I didn't agree with him with what he said about Hugo Lloris. You know, how is it not obvious about, you know, look at the guy, you know, look at the mistakes he's made. 2 massive blunders in 2 North London derbies this season, and it's been continuous. And it's like, I agree with Sean on this point. It's like, if Hugo Lloris just walks back in, regardless of the errors he's made, you know, like there's no real fight for position. You get someone like Fraser Forster sort of demotivated. It's like, no matter what I've done, I actually think he's been a breath of fresh air coming into that goals. I think he's helped out a little bit. I think obviously we need to do better in the January transfer window, but he has helped out. And I think from the likes of set pieces, you know, instruct him, come off the line, go and punch the ball, go and try and collect it. He's 6'7". You know, he should be getting a role as the beanstalk and Jack and the beanstalk.
I agree with that 100%. I've not once seen him come out and claim a ball in the 10 games. No, I think he's done a really good job. I criticised him for his inability to get down quick enough. But actually, he's got down very well against Milan 2 or 3 times, got down very well against Wolves, kept us in the game in other games recently. Nottingham Forest, he was spectacular, kept the penalty out, done a great job in all the things that I thought his physicality would actually, you know, almost hold him back from being able to be excellent at. But in the one area where I thought, giant, let's see what this man can do to snuff out crosses, he stands on his goal line, just like Hugo Lloris does. It's like, I don't know how many, maybe you guys enlighten me here, but there's a lot of goalkeepers that come off their line for crosses and get involved. Emilio Martinez, I think, is a phenomenal version of that. He comes out and he tries to take as much pressure off the centre-backs as he possibly can. And Aston Villa have actually got centre-backs that can handle headers. Tottenham don't, and our goalkeepers never help them out. And we've got a 6'7" each absolute Goliath there. It shouldn't take too much for him to be able to see the cross, and if it's in some sort of Goldilocks zone, be able to predict it and come out and not even necessarily punch it all the time, but just grab it. But never happens. And I think that is a recipe for disaster, you know, over a long enough sample size of games.
For sure. Guys, I want to ask you about Perisic now as well. It's kind of like, look, it's sort of been made clear through the media that Perisic doesn't really want to be here. He wants out at the end of the season. We know he's weak defensively. Would you start him today, or are we at the point now where it's kind of like whoever doesn't want to be here, out, bring in the youngsters? You've got young Mundell who's been training. You've got Pascazzi who's been training. Would you perhaps give one of them a start out there and just say to Perisic, you don't want to be here? Good luck. You're a part of the problem.
It's a tricky one, that, Dave. It's a really, really tricky one. If there wasn't so much riding on this game against Everton and going third, I might stick a youngster in there. But the fact that I feel like we really, really need to get the 3 points today, I would go with Perisic just because of the amount of experience the guy does have, and the fact that, you know, we know he can assist as well, and he can whip in a quality ball, which unfortunately from the right side, you know, before Pedro Porro came in, we didn't have anyone that could really, really put in a good ball like that. So just for this one, I'd stick with Perisic. But if it wasn't so much, if we were mid-table or whatever, yeah, I'd definitely stick in a youngster. Definitely.
See me, I'm not so like hung up on those crosses. Or like, how many of those outfield crosses have actually converted into actual goals this season? I mean, I know his set pieces have been fantastic for us this season, and we scored a lot from it. And most of his assists have come from set pieces. But just actual gameplay itself, he doesn't offer enough variety for me, in my opinion, in terms of assisting. Like when you're crossing, you could do a hang ball, which he normally does at the back post, where the ball just hangs up in the air and then you wait for it and then you finish it, you stick it in. But sometimes you need to whip it. He doesn't do that whip type of cross. He doesn't do that cross that's in between, I call it the chin and the knee. So it's kind of hard to defend because it's not on the floor, but then it's not too high the way the keeper can collect it. It's at like a tricky distance. He doesn't put it across the floor a lot, or enough for me. He doesn't do cutbacks as well when he gets to the byline. So sometimes if you cut back, that's a different type of chance as well. And sometimes I like to see him in that half space and whipping across as well. That can also create a lot of chances for our strikers, especially like Kane. He could get onto the end of things like that. I think I need to see a lot more.
Someone's asking you in the comments, they said, you know, and I think it's a good question, so I'll put it to you. Is it that Perisic's crossing is bad? Or is it that our strikers don't make enough movement in the box? Or is that a combination of both?
It's a combination of both, but you need to know the kind of caliber, and you need to know your profile of your players. If you know your players and you play with them week in, week out, you're going to know that this type of cross might not suit this type of player. So you need to kind of do the eyeball test and say, look, all right, this, like, not one shoe fits all, if that makes sense. So you just need to be more intelligent and be a bit more, use your experience in certain situations. And if you're not going to cross, sometimes the cross is not working, sometimes come inside and have a shot and have a go. So I just want to see a lot more of that. And also, as a wing back, I find that if you can join the midfield sometimes, and leave space for Son to kind of switch over, that's going to give Son from in to out. He's going to be able to lose his marker because Son's going to be a lot more central in attacking midfielder, which he is of late. If he comes from in to out, he might be able to lose that centre back or lose that full back, get some space, and then maybe he can deliver across, or vice versa, and he can go from outside to inside. Do you know what I mean? So there's different tactics that I would like to see a lot more, and Perisic needs to show a lot more of that for me, in my opinion. And that's why I wouldn't mind giving a youngster a go, because at least with a youngster, you could give him the instruction. He's not like got baggage. He hasn't got all of that, those bad mistakes, you know, like he hasn't learned them yet. So when you can mold your youngster to how you want them to play, how you want them to be tactically, what's going to work against this particular opposition, what this defender's weaknesses. Oh, Coleman, he likes to take his first touch on the outside. So when you do that, what you do is you shape your body here, and then you do you know what I mean? So it's those little things you could tell to a youngster, but Perisic, you might not be able to give so much information because he's already got his style of playing. He's 30 plus old, do you know what I mean? So like for me, bringing him on, you might be able to do more impact. Do you know what I'm saying? You bring him on, you know, people are a bit tired, and then he'll be able to do a burst of pace, you know, but playing him for like long periods of the game and not getting much out of him, apart from crossing where it's just hanging at the back post. And obviously they're going to be doing loads of videos on Spurs. They're going to know how Perisic is crossing. They're going to be able to read that And the amount of bodies Everton have in the box, like, it's ridiculous. Like, they all have about 8 players inside the box. So when you're crossing the ball, they're going to love it. They're going to like, look, Tottenham going to want to do that. Tottenham going to want to go wide, and they're going to want to cross it in. And we're going to have 8 players, and then we're only going to have 4 players. We're going to have really 3 or 4 players in that box against their 8. It's a mismatch. You know what I mean? So sometimes you need to change tact on that alone. And I think, yeah, that's, for me, that's just my opinion. I don't know. I could be wrong.
No, look, where I'm at with it now, it's kind of like, look, Perisic doesn't want to be here, and I don't think he has the desire to sort of do the defensive side of the game at his age. I don't think he has that hunger or the willingness or the wantingness to do it. I think it's more of a burden on him. I agree with you. I think his crossing has been piss poor. But look, when it comes to the crossing, just quickly, for me, I think it's a combination of both. I look at Harry Kane sometimes, and I don't think he makes runs he could make. And that's because I don't think he believes the ball's going to come into the area when he makes that run. And I think it's a huge problem, especially down that left-hand side. The crossing and the strikers there sort of making runs. Son has had multiple times he could make a run, and sort of doesn't do it. So for me, I think it's a combination of both. I don't think the forwards believe that ball's going to come in where they make the run to. And I also don't think the wingers know where the strikers want the ball. So I think that is sort of a problem. But going defensively, I mean, look, I've had to put up with Session this year. Useless. Guy couldn't defend or cross the ball. Perisic, been largely disappointing. I think I expected so much more from him, especially being a senior player. The career the guy's had, he just hasn't delivered, to the way that me or many other Spurs fans wanted. And Ben Davies, he's done a job out there, but he's not a long-term solution. So for all that, why not throw in a youngster? What have we got to lose? A lot of these players have no problem throwing managers under the bus. They'd probably do the same to Conte or to Stellini and Mason, by the way. No results don't go
All
away.
of our best youngsters have gone on loan, though, mate. The ones that are left are not ready, right?
Look, but what's the point of persisting with players that are letting you down, that aren't doing the job anyway? Would you not rather throw in someone that at least has the desire and the want to do the job,
so
rather than having someone out there that's paid 200
David,
who's your idea? Who
Perisic isn't doing it. I don't.
But who's the youngster that you'd like to come in right now?
Well, Piscozzi or Mundell. I'd rather give them a chance. I really would.
What about taking Dyer out as well, then, Dave?
He can play left wing, but I reckon the reason why he's been called up is maybe looking at him sort of play a left wing back. I know Saka done it when he first came into the Arsenal team, and I wonder are they looking at a bit something like that.
Apparently the guy, Mundell, however you say his name, apparently he's about to get a new contract. Apparently there's lots of Premier League clubs circling. Maybe that's a way to give him the reason to stay and sign a new contract, but it's a big risk, doing it against Everton. Listen, I have that little faith in Perisic's defensive frailties. I'm not necessarily against it, but if someone like Harvey White was still here, I'd be more on board putting him there in that role, because I thought he did a good job when he did that against was it the Korean All-Stars in the summer?
Yeah,
I thought he was pretty good in that role. But I don't know. I don't know much about this Mundell fella, but if he's that good, then and this is a reason. Remember, we lost out on the Indian the fella, I forget the guy Dylan McCandy, the kid with the Indian descent. We lost out on him because we didn't play him enough, and we only got 500 grand, and that could have been he could have been a good player. So I'm not necessarily against it, but it's like beggars can't be choosers right now, isn't it? We're in a real dire situation if he's the only recognized left-sided player that we have, and we know that how bad he is defensively. Sorry, Amir, mate. I know you were going to say something.
No, I was just, thinking, David, if that's the logic, then why don't we rip it all apart? Take Dyer out the team and stick in a youngster there. Yeah.
I would.
Well, in that case, then Stellini for me should have gone, and Mason should be the one leading the team now for these last 10 games. If that's the case, if we're going to rebuild like that, then scrap everything. Scrap the whole Conte era and start from scratch.
Oh, there's so much to play for, though, boys. We're getting a little bit drastic here.
That's the thing, Shawnee. That's why I'd stick with Perisic, even though he hasn't been great. And Dave's right, and the fact that we've got an unhappy player who doesn't want to be at the club. For me, all the players that are on that pitch should be dying for the badge. That's the way I see it. And,
Yeah, and Perisic is probably he wants out, right? He won't be here in the next season. He wants to go, doesn't he?
He won't. He won't.
And he's going to cheat on recovery runs. You just know he is. If he doesn't want to be here, it's going to be like, nah, fuck it. I won't burst my bollocks to make that run. And that's where it starts.
Maybe then back to the argument you made earlier. Maybe you could go to a 4 at the back. And I know to Ashmatic, he'll come in with the tactical side of this, whether it can figure it out or not. But maybe you do play Longley on the left, Dyer, Romero, and Porro, and kind of go with the back 4. I know it's not perfect, right? But you do that, and then that allows you to have Skippy and Sarr and Højbjerg play in the midfield 3 to compete with Onana and that, and then you have the traditional 3 up the top.
Shawnee, can you bring up the lineups, my man? It's just my computer's going to freeze like ever.
Yeah, I'll get it for you now.
Sorry, Ash. Go on, answer Sean's question, and we'll bring up the lineups and discuss on them.
Yeah, no. All I was going to say was you can still have the 3-4-3. I understand the logic of the 4 at the back because we think to match them up in midfield. But basically, when you've got Dyer pushing a little bit higher up, he can help with the 2 double pivots. And then equally, like I was saying before, one of the wing backs can come inside a little bit to help as well with that, the double pivots. And also Spurs just stepping up as well sometimes. Oh, here we go. Spurs. Okay.
Here we go. Lloris in goal, Romero, Dyer and Longley as the back 3, Pedro Porro on the right, Perisic on the left, Højbjerg and Skip. It's as you were. Kulusevski, Kane and Son. Yeah, completely, very predictable. And then substitutes for Fraser Foster, Austin, Chapik Tanganga's back on the subs bench, Davo, Sanchez, Pape Sarr, Alfie Devine and Mundell get their chances on the bench, and then Lucas and Danjuma to finish up the squad.
Yeah, look, I'll kick it off. I don't agree with Lloris coming straight back in. Look, we had this discussion on my channel about the captaincy, lack of leaders in the senior professionals in the dressing room. We can go into it in more detail on another day when I come back on. But for me, I'm not happy with it. I think Fraser Forster should be in there. I also think Fraser Forster has been better with his feet than what Lloris is as well. Romero, Dyer, Langley sort of expected it. Porro, we knew that was happening along with Perisic. Yeah, look, it's more or less exactly what I expected. My only question is, and it's sort
apart
of
from Lloris, right? I think that's a disgrace. If I'm honest, I think that's an absolute disgrace.
Why do you think it's a disgrace, Sean? Tell us why.
Because I stand by the idea of meritocracy. What's the point of working your socks off as the guy who's second in charge or second? Anybody that's a squad member. Like I said it all season with Sonny. Said it all season with regards to Harry Kane. And also with the likes of Skippy and Pape Sarr versus Højbjerg and Bentancur, it's all very well like having your staple, but if the staple hasn't been perfect, then you pivot to the kind of the guys that are chomping at the bit to get in. And if the guy that comes in because of a forced injury to a guy that has been absolutely awful this season in Hugo Lloris, he comes in, it's one thing again if he screws up, but he hasn't. He's been awesome. He has been arguably our best signing of the entire summer 7 that came in, or the summer 6, unless you include the fella from Udinese. He's been our best summer signing. He's come in and he's been brilliant. And then the second that this guy is ready, the second that he's fit again, thanks, mate. Thanks very much. Back to the bench you go. What sort of message does that send? And if it was Conte that was making this decision, I'd be fuming. And the fact that it's not Conte and it's Stellini, you know what? I was Conte out, and one of the reasons why I was Conte out, for what it's worth, so I'm a little bit in the mud here, because one of the reasons why I was Conte out was because of his loyalty towards players that don't deserve it and his lack of curiosity towards players that deserve a chance. And Stellini and Mason have made the decision to put Hugo Lloris straight back in. It's a disgrace. It would have been a disgrace if Conte did it. It's a disgrace that Stellini's done it. I'm sorry. I hope he does well tonight, and I hope he proves me right. Proves me wrong. But but Foster deserves to keep his place. That's an absolute shambles of a decision.
What I will just say quickly, and we'll let Ash in down there as well, is it's sort of like, look, I think Stellini has time still to prove people wrong. The actual tactics, which he alluded to in his pre-match presser, might be a bit different. You might actually see Tottenham play the same way. But right now, he's just followed on the script from Conte. Bringing Lloris in, which Conte said he was going to do. Same formation. Look, same players. You'd say his hands were tied with injury. Fair enough. But I'm not 100% convinced we're going to get this changed. Time will tell. Let's see what happens in the match. But Ash, what's your thoughts on the lineup?
Yeah, as I said before, in the press conference, he did say that he's not going to change too much, and he is a disciple of Conte. He's one of Conte's children. The assistant manager is not going to completely change and be his own man, but he did say game by game he will change it up. But in terms of Lloris, I mean, the only argument we could say is like, you know, after the World Cup, he didn't really want to be here, and then I think he had an injury, and then he came back and he was much better. So I'm hoping for something similar as well. You know, after a little bit of time off, he's come back and he's felt better. And you know, being the club captain, whether we agree with it or not, he is the captain. So I think as the club captain comes back and starts. I think that's just how it is. That's just the culture of football. Your captains always start. I understand as well. Like for me, you play players on form, and the irony of it all was that Conte actually said when he did first come that no player has automatic start. No player should be able to walk into his dressing room and think they're safe. But obviously, time has dictated something different. But just going through the actual lineup, as we were talking before, I think the options that we had, Romero, Dyer, Longley was always going to start, and Pedro Porro defensively has been up and down, to be fair to him. Attacking wise, he's been very good, but defensively, people have asked questions of him. Højbjerg and Skip, for me, I would like Højbjerg to tactically, I would like him to run in between the lines a little bit more. I think he sits back as a DM with Skip too much. I think one of them need to commit and take a few more risks and help out their attacking three, because if we've got no creativity from our wings and they've got a big midfield, you know, packed with Decore, Onana, Gay, you know, we're gonna need one of our double pivots to kind of push on and take a risk to help and supply balls into Kane, into Son, into Kulu. But I'm hoping that with this team, if we do sit back and they do create chances, they do come onto us, that's when we can find chances. That's when we can find a space, and that's when we can hit them. Because I think if we push onto them too much and they're sitting back and they're defending and they're not having the ball, we're always going to be vulnerable in and behind. I think Tottenham are best when we've got the space in behind, when teams are coming onto us a little bit. So I wouldn't mind at some point, I'm not saying for the whole game, just saying at periods, if they've come onto us and spaces start to open up, we can exploit the spaces and we can attack them, and you can see the best of Son, you can see the best of Kulu. For me, Kulu, I know everyone wants Kulu to be the attacking mid and Son and Kane to be up top. I think when I saw him again in Sweden, he was out wide. He looked like a demon. He was old school Kulu. I was like, yeah, this is the Kulu I see at Spurs. You know what I'm saying? But Kulu in the middle this season, he's kind of looked off there. I know he said he can play that position, but from what I've seen, Kulu out wide, pulling out wide, he just looks like a better player. And then when he comes inside and then gets a shot off or he crosses it, that's the Kulu that I knew. That's the Kulu I saw last season. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. Kane, for me, if Kane drifts off into the spaces into the right, or he pushes up top, he pushes their centre-backs back. That's going to create a little bit more space for someone like either Kulu or Son. Because if we don't have that top man pushing all their centre-backs back, it's going to be easy for them to defend. It's going to be easy. If Kane's just dropping in that hole all the time, we need someone up top. We need someone up top to stretch them. So, yeah, that's what I think of the formation. Even the subs. The subs I'm very excited about because you got youngsters in there. Sa, Divine, and Amando. They're going to be hungry. They're going to have a lot of pace, a lot of energy. And obviously, Lucas and Danjuma, they're experienced players. They can offer something when it comes to the last 20 or 15 minutes. They can obviously come on against tired legs and switch up a bit.
Yeah.
Mm.
It'd be interesting to see if any of them youngsters actually do get a shot off the bench like a Mundle or a Devine. Amir, what's your thoughts on the star lineup, man? You surprised that Hugo Lloris has come in? I know there's a lot of mixed sort of opinions in the comments where some people are saying he's club captain. It was obvious he's going to come back, but then you got people like me where it's kind of like, look, I get doing this whole stability thing to the end of the season, whether it pays off or not. Let's wait and see. But I'm also of the belief, as well as a manager change, we need a captain change as well. And I would rather see Fraser Forrester out there. Hugo Lloris made too many mistakes. But in general, where are you at with the lineup?
Look, I think the lineup was always going to be the same. I couldn't see any changes, really being made in there. I think Stellini's just going to follow on from what Conte was doing. With regards to Lloris, I think the only reason he's come back in is the whole club captaincy thing. If he wasn't captain, you'd bed him in slowly. You'd keep Forster there. You'd give the captaincy, to either Højbjerg or Kane, and you'd let Lloris come back in slowly. It just goes to show the root of the problem at our club, that we have certain players here that we know won't be here next season.
Yeah.
That we need to have a plan to get rid of, and we need to have replacements for them. When you look at other clubs that are doing really well, what do? They bring in players a year or two before to replace a player that they know that is gonna leave over the next few years. So it is what it is today. Lloris is in there. You just got to hope and pray that he's come with his decent pair of gloves and not those fumbly gloves, because I think Ashmatic was saying earlier, the balls from Everton are going to come in non-stop. The crosses, they're going to be pelting our box. They got big strong lads up there. Just really hope he's got his best pair of gloves on today.
Let me ask you, Amir, if we weren't in a top 4 race, do you think we would have seen maybe more drastic changes to that team?
Yeah, I think if we were a mid-table club, you would have seen some of those kids starting. The whole outburst, if you like, by Conte. Yes, he wanted to get the boot. I completely agree with Sean there. He was looking to get himself fired. But at the same time, when a manager's calling some of these players selfish, and we've gone through manager after manager, Nuno, Poch, Mason, Jose, we know that some of these players throw managers under the bus, and we do know that they have some selfish characteristics, and that they don't care fully for the club, and they're in it for the wages and their own progression. So
it's not about what he said though, mate. It's how he said it, when he said it, and why he said it.
There's I get it. I get it, Shawnee. I get it. I just think he was at his end of his tether, with all the things that had gone on personally. I don't agree with coming out publicly and doing it the way he did. But it's done now. It's done. It's out there. And yeah, if we were mid-table, I think you would see kids. You would see kids in this team. Now it's up to these players really for them to stick a rocket up each other's arse and actually go out there today. And honestly, the win, it's really important. But for me, the performance is even more important. It's even more important that we fight for every second ball, we create chances, and we try and nick a win. And that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping for today, lads.
They also had that striker, didn't they? Sims. He scored against Chelsea, didn't he? He came on and he caused havoc.
Oh, yeah.
He's something I'm looking out for as well. They got Mumpai back. Go on, do the lineup.
Yeah, we got Jordan Pickford in goal. We got Coleman at centre back. On the left. We got Tarkowski, Keane, Godfrey, Garner, Onana, Doucouré, Iwobi, McNeil, and Damari Gray. And then on the bench for them, that's a bit of an interesting
one. He's playing up front.
Damari Gray is a one up front.
Yeah, one up front. Yeah,
they're playing 4-5-1.
Yeah,
and then they've got and then they've got Begovic as a bench, Holgate, Mina, Mikalenko, Maupay. Fuck that guy. He's a I don't know. I don't know for the life of me understand how that guy has kept up a Premier League career. He's insane. Davies, Cody, Garner, and Sims. So that's an interesting back forward. Tarkowski, Keane, Godfrey, and Coleman. And then Garner, Onana, Doucouré, Iwobi. It's not quite as strong Obviously, without Connor Cody there,
Same team they played against Chelsea, and the last 3 games, it's an unchanged team. There's no change. They've been playing 4-5-1. There's no difference, and they've been getting performances under Daesh.
Who's this guy? Who is this guy?
Idris. It's Idris Ghana. It's Idris.
Oh, Idris. Okay,
yeah. So he's going to play deep, and then it's Onana and Decore that are slightly in front of him. But you're going to see him up and down all the time. So that's the 3. That's like the 3 horsemen, and then Iwobi, McNeil on either side, and then Gray's up top. Gray's going to be running in behind. He's got that pace. He's the one they're going to be looking for.
That guy's one of the greatest Premier League the value for money bargains. I think was it 1.9 million or something they paid for him. 1.8 million quid.
Yeah, from Germany.
Insane low budget, and he's such a good player.
Yeah,
very cool.
A lot of energy in that midfield with Ghana, Onana, Decore. A lot of energy to get around as well. The midfield battle will be very, very interesting tonight, and it's one we've got to win. You know, these fans, these players have to come out here, have to put in a performance. It has to be on the front foot. You know, they've moaned about that the repetitiveness in training of defensive methods, even though we concede a lot of goals. So, you know, this Tottenham team tonight, I don't want to see any excuses, none whatsoever. They've made every excuse under the sun. I want to see them get forward. I want to see them attack them tonight. But I'm worried about that midfield battle. I really am. They've got, you know, Ghana, he'll get stuck in. Decore will get stuck in. And Onana will get stuck in and can play as well.
Onana's a monster. He's a brilliant player. Brilliant player. Him and Palhinha from Fulham, and I'll be happy next season.
The thing is, I know they've got a lot of energy. I know they've got a lot of this and that. But when it comes to actual finishing, toothless.
Yeah.
Toothless.
You've jinxed it now.
Yeah, you've absolutely jinxed it now.
Gray's going to get a hat trick now.
Onana cannot finish. I'm telling you. Look, Onana cannot. He cannot. Decore probably. He's got, out of all of them in the box, and not probably Decore out of that 3 could probably, you know, maybe not stick it on Lloris, but he could get a shot on target. But yeah, McNeil can shoot. But like, yeah, I mean, on his day, Gray up top, I've seen him score worldies, but it's rarely. It's every now and then. Do you understand? But I just think the more they come onto us, the more space there is in behind, and that's when we're more lethal. When we're doing those counter attacks, those quick transitions, those quick quick balls into midfield, into up our front 3. That's when we're causing the most devastation. So I don't mind sometimes if Everton do have it, and then we just spring our attack on them. Do you know what I'm saying? And then that it's when they sit back and they do that 2 lines of back 4. You know, that's when it's hard. That's when we're going to find problems to break them down, because we don't really break teams down like that. And our crossing, like I said, we're going to cross the ball into the box, and you watch, they're going to have about 8 man in the box. That's it, literally. And we're going to find it hard to break them out and score goals and create opportunities. Yeah. So you'll see them with bigger chances on the night, but we'll have more possession. And that's how they play. That's Everton all over. Do you know what I mean?
Ash, Jack's retorting to you. He says, anyone can score against Moonhead, strike a pose. That's what he seems to do. Lloris is back. Everyone seems to score against him too. If we lose tonight, everyone just blame Ash. He's the one that jinxed it. You know, I learned my lessons.
Wow. Is that what we're doing now, yeah?
I learned my lessons. I'm trying to avoid saying it because I know what happens when I open my mouth. Wow. You jinxed it. You jinxed it. What's the goal score 3 tonight? I know. Look, let's wait and see. Can I pose a different question that's slightly away from the game? Perfect, because I need to run to the Jacks. I'll be back in a second.
Go. Okay. My question, I've got 2 questions for you, right? First and foremost is, and I want everyone in the comments to get involved on this. With the debacle that has been Chelsea's season, who would you rather be the owner of our club with the decision-making that you've seen so far this season? Todd Boehly or Daniel Levy? And anyone, Amir, who do you fancy, bro?
I mean, you can't be judging Todd Boehly after what? How long has he been there now? 8 months. I know it's a mess over there. I know it's absolute mayhem, and they're sitting in the bottom half of the table, and they've spunked so much money. But you got to give that guy a bit of time. It's a really difficult one. You'd obviously have to say Daniel Levy, given what you've got to compare, right? But with Daniel Levy and the whole Levy out movement, I think it gets a lot deeper than that, Shawnee, than looking at, Bowley over Levy. With Levy,
No, I know. I get it that Daniel Levy's not perfect, and there's a million chairmen out there that might be more desirable. But I just wonder whether or not Todd Bowley is, he's the devil. He's the devil you don't know, right? Like Chelsea never asked for Abramovich to go, but they had to. They got forced into it.
You're right.
This guy's come in, and to me, I think the guy doesn't have a flaming clue what he's doing. He spent all that money. He's gone through 2 managers in 6 months. And I think that, he thinks he's being super clever with FFP rules by extending, by paying up for young kids, putting them on 8-year contracts. I think he's thought about the FFP, the accounting side. I don't think he's thought about the how to get rid of players in with the absence of a secondary market side. I think Todd Bowley is rudderless, and people might hate Daniel Levy, and I understand why, but people like Todd Bowley are the devil that you don't know.
I completely agree with you there, Shawnee. I completely agree with you there. He's causing mayhem over there, and long may it continue. Long may it continue. Just to put those two as your only options, though, it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one, but you do have to go with Daniel Levy just because of the safety and the business side that he has managed to run very well. In an ideal world, Levy would be doing the business side of things and leaving everything football up to someone who is an actual football person, and he has no interaction.
That's the ideal scenario, isn't it? That's the ideal scenario. Like get like Daniel Levy to step back, but that might not happen.
I think the whole fan base would be happy with that. Like Levy ins and Levy outs. If Levy was just to actually just do what he's good at, which is the actual business side of things, I think there'd be no qualms with Levy staying at the club, which he is going to do anyway, if he was just to run the commercial side of the business and the director of football was to do. Yeah, but in terms of Ted Bowley, I think what he's done, he's thought, he's done his American sports, and he thought he can implement that into obviously UK football, English football. And obviously that model that he thought was going to work in his head hasn't worked. And I think
not yet. Like it might do, and I take the point that it's 1 year. Well, not even 1 year versus a long time. But,
it's very risky, as you said, because he's gambled on Mudryk with that.
Not just Mudryk, mate. He's gambled on so many players, The amount of money he spent on Cucurella, the amount of money he spent on like half a dozen centre backs, like the amount of money he's paying them on salaries. I think that there is a absolute mountain of issues coming for Chelsea in the next 2 years. Even if they get into the top 4, I don't think it solves the amount of shit that he's put them in by going this gung-ho, ridiculous narrative. I might be wrong. I hope I'm not wrong.
Are you basing this off, Sean, that the sustainability thing that Premier League are coming to because they're expecting regulators?
Yeah, and if there's no European Super League, and the European Super League is what's going to be required, or some version of it, for the secondary market to open up in Europe. Like 90% of European clubs are bankrupt. How do you? We've seen it with Tottenham. How do you offload your mistakes? You can't. And I don't know. And Chelsea have got the same problem down the road, but far bigger. They spent so much money on so many players that, and listen, they might hit the ground running later, but listen, I'm not saying this is a defense of Daniel Levy. I'm not. I'm just saying for anybody that wanted anybody else other than Daniel Levy, if Todd Bowley came in and did what he's done, most Tottenham fans would be going, wonderful, we spent all this money, it's amazing, we're going to do things. I think that Chelsea are struggling this year, and if they don't figure it out next year, in 18, 24 months' time, I think Chelsea are going to have the biggest, most monumental problems financially with their inability to get the shit shows off of their books, unless there's a European Super League which somehow pumps money into other European leagues. I'm fascinated to see. It's a brilliant experiment. I can't wait to see how it works out. I hope Chelsea fail.
Clearly, Davies says stupid money equals stupid results.
Yeah, well,
I got to agree with that. I completely agree with that. But surely, what about sticking into that equation someone like Tony Bloom, who's done a fantastic job with Brighton?
But he's not doing. He's the entire opposite, isn't he? He's someone who's focusing on the Moneyball system, and the expectations of Brighton fans are far more reasonable. They're just delighted with the general progress and the general kind of upward trajectory. I think a lot of like Chelsea, and to a degree, not calling out anyone, but to Tottenham fans generally, because of the run that we had in 2018 under Poch, where we got to the Champions League final. As I said at the time, and I've said it a long time since, I think that we jumped ahead of our own trajectory so quickly then. And then we naturally had to come back off of that kind of pedestal that we put ourselves on. But the expectations remain this high. And that is part of the reason why there's such an intolerance of patience at Tottenham, generally speaking, because of how quickly we moved under Poch. If we'd been on a slightly more gentle slope, I think we'd be a lot more happy with where we are. Like if we win tonight, in 2 hours' time, we're third in the Premier League, in the most competitive league in the world. We're ahead of so many teams that have spent so much more money than us. Things aren't that bad. We had a season this year where we could have done better in the cup competitions, of course. That's a massive disaster. But ultimately, you know, I think that the expectations versus reality, the balance there is a little bit off kilter. And I think at Chelsea, it's another example of that, probably on steroids. It's an amplified version of that. And Todd Boehly comes in. Chelsea fans think they've got another version of Abramovich. But actually, this time they don't. They've got a guy who's got leveraged debt. He's not paying from the money of oligarch oil barons. They're paying from money that comes from, you know, private equity. I know this isn't for the conversation today, so I'm sorry for bringing it up. But
no, interesting.
Generally speaking, I'd be fascinated if Chelsea can figure it out. Then fair play. It sets a new precedent in how to circumvent FFP. If they don't, it's going to be unbelievably interesting to see how they wriggle out of the financial circumstances that I think they've got themselves into this season.
It's coming for a few clubs, I would say. It looks like, you know, the Premier League are looking like they have to be seen to do something because the financial regulators are coming. So let's wait and see what comes of that whole situation for sure. But sorry, Ash, you wanted to respond, my man?
No, I was going to say, like, I would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Potter wasn't in charge and Tuchel was still around. I know it's a hypothetical, but I wonder if some of those decisions would have been a little bit different in terms of personnel, in terms of results. I wonder if Chelsea wouldn't be so far back at the moment.
If Abramovich was still here.
No, well, yeah. Well, my point is that, like, I think that Potter had a particular way of playing, and he thought, you know, that particular style, albeit that he needed more time, he thought that particular style and his type of tactics would suit these type of players. And the players that he got in, he said at one point, like, he said, look, I'm just a coach. I don't even pick the players. Like, so for me, that was completely mad. I was like,
it's a weird thing to hear, isn't it? It's a very weird thing to hear. Yeah.
That's when I knew. I was like, yeah, he's set up to fail here.
Well, and that leads me on, Ash, to the second question that I meant to actually spend most of the last 10 minutes talking about, rather than talking about Todd Boehly and Chelsea. It was more around now that Potter's gone. If we got a few minutes left, I'd love to get your opinion and everybody in the comments. Like, is someone like Potter tarnished goods now? Is he tainted goods? Is he someone, because he was someone that 2 years ago most Tottenham fans would have had. Now that you've seen him fail at a club that's, you know, got similar, if not maybe slightly higher expectations than Tottenham fans do, would you now steer clear of him? Would you not touch him with a barge pole? And if not him, who is there? Anybody else that's emerging from the recent the managerial merry-go-round that does pique your interest?
Amir, you could go first, my man.
Look, I just don't think it's tarnished anything in terms of Graham Potter's managerial career. I think what he done at Brighton shows how good of a man-to-man coach he is with the players. He had them playing out of their skin. Really, I think that Chelsea job at the moment with Boehly, it's a poison chalice, really. I mean, look, getting rid of Tuchel now, he's probably going to go off and win the Champions League with Bayern. So yeah, he's not tarnished goods at all. Would I want him to come in now for the Spurs job? I'm not too sure. I personally, I think Poch is the only man for the job, and we need to do everything to go and get him back. But in terms of some of the other names that are out there, your Gallardos, your Nagelsmans, those are the kind of rebuild managers that could do well with a lot of the younger players, and, you know, really rebuilding, getting the deadwood out and bringing in quality. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
Poch is your first choice, and everybody else is
my first choice and last choice, to be honest.
Everyone's a distant second. All right, Ash, who's your first choice, mate?
Yeah, you know what? I'd have to agree.
Poch,
Only
yeah.
because I wouldn't say he's my last choice because I think there's other. I do like that fine-eyed manager.
Arnie Slot.
Arnie Slot, yeah. I think he's something a bit different. I do have a thing for Dutch. So yeah, I wouldn't mind.
I got a thing for Dutch as well. It's a lot more fun. Dave, who's your guy, Dave? Who's your first choice?
First of all, I want to talk about your question quickly on Potter. I'm glad you mentioned most because I was not one of them. You know me, I've always alluded to Graham Potter being overrated. I would say that's sort of been summed up at Chelsea. Yeah, you can say Todd Bowley switched it up, started bringing a lot of new players. But the reality is, like I said, the players that were there before that used to win in Champions League were never, ever going to respect this guy. And it turned out to be that way. And that's why you've got to be careful about, putting managers into clubs like that with a lot of winners in the dressing room because they just won't have it. But look, in terms of who I want, I would love to see Pochettino back. I think he does deserve the chance to rebuild. Don't want that skinny jean, no sock wearing, oat milk latte drinking, and Nagelsmann whatsoever. Don't want him anywhere near us. I'm a bit worried about his time at. I'm a bit worried about his time at Bayern. I'm not 100% convinced or sold on him either. I do like the look of Amorim, I have to say. I do think he's done a very good job in Portugal. 4 League Cups, 4 Portuguese League Cups back-to-back, all to his name.
Amarim's not going to keep Kane, like your boy Kane.
But, No, he's not. He's not. And he also said he doesn't like Daniel Levy, so I don't think he'll be making that move anytime soon. And I think that what I read is he signed it when he first signed. There was a 20 million release clause. Then he signed a new contract and it got up to 30. Tottenham have already said he ain't paying any release clause. So for me,
Poch,
I'm
right?
at a point.
Poch is the only guy who's going to keep Kane, right? Poch is he doesn't come with a release clause, and he's the only guy that's going to keep Kane.
I say Poch, but like the reality is he's been around for so long. Tottenham could have literally had him in the next day after sacking Conte, and it sort of hasn't worked out like that. And I would maybe say maybe Tottenham don't want him, but maybe Poch doesn't want to return either. So look, we'll wait and see what happens. But look, we do need to end off. I've really enjoyed this show with all of you guys today. We'll start with you, Shawnee. What's coming up on your channel, my brother?
Spurs Talk Show is where you can find me. On Wednesday night, I've set aside a couple of hours. There's a guy who's a massive Levy out advocate, brilliant fella, Phil P. You might know him. He's the guy who says "woo" all the time. He and I are going to do a one-on-one, a mano versus mano Levy debate. Like I say, neither of us are going to go. I mean, it should be heated, it should be passionate, but we're just going to go out there and present both sides of the arguments. And then get to our own little version of, what's going on at Tottenham and how much of the pie does each person get. I'm going to do that Wednesday night on Spurs Talk Show. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. On top of that, you can always check out my daily videos where I take my dog Bugsy for a walk and get off my chest whatever's going on. Spurs Talk Show. Dave, thank you so much. Great to spend the time with you, and Ashmatic and Amir as always. And my prediction for this evening in half an hour, I'm going to say 2-1 Tottenham.
Oh, love it. Love the positive score prediction. I thought I'd struggle to get some of them today, but it seems like Sean's got out the right side of the bed just like me today. So I love that. Amir, my man, what's happening on your show? And what's your score prediction?
Well, first of all, I'm going to have to agree with Shawnee. We don't really agree on much on many things, but when it comes to the score tonight, I'm going to go with 2-1 as well. I really do think we'll just somehow get the victory. You can find me over at Israel Uncovered, basically over there trying to show, another side to Israel that you might not see on all the news channels, just the beautiful spots, the waterfalls, the nature, the archaeology, that kind of thing. So if that's your thing and you're interested in travel, hop on over. Really does help me out a lot as a tour guide. So that would be brilliant. And just really, really hoping for the win tonight, Dave. We need to go third. We got 2 home games coming up. We can alleviate a lot of the pressure that is on the club and on the players tonight. So let's hopefully go out there and get the win. We've got enough quality to do it. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Love that, Amir. Love that, my man. Ash, have you anything to plug? And what's your score prediction, my man?
Yeah, you can catch me on South Views Coys. I'll be on there tonight. You'll see me in other channels as well. I'm about. And yeah, man, thanks for having me on. As always, guys, big up the show. Big up We Are Tottenham as always. I think tonight we've actually got a wicked record against Everton. And Harry Kane has scored I think it's his highest scoring team just after Leicester. He loves to score against Everton. But there's a but towards this. The last, I'd say, 2 or 3 games away at Goodison, we've drawn. So I'm going to be safe and go for a 1-1 draw.
Oh, interesting. Ash has gone with a 1-1. Look, I'm going to go with a 1-0 Tottenham. I think tonight will be a cagey affair. You know me, I'll never, ever, ever bet against Tottenham. You can call me deluded all you want, no problem. But I'm going to 1-0 Tottenham. I'm going to go Harry Kane to nick the game. But guys, we're out. We got to end off to let the guys start that watch long that you so famously love. You can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. If you love more of King Irish, get over there and smash that subscribe button. Guys, we'll see you all back here for the next game next weekend, because guess what? No more midweek games for us. Champions League is over. So we'll see you all back here next week. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Tottenham. Let's do it.
In the absent manager we trust.
Yeah, in the vacant managerial position I trust.